This is Voices with Vision on your Jazz and Justice station, WPFW.
We're in the studio joining us right now is Sophia Tesfamariam. I hope I said that right.
Yes.
with the National Union of Eritrean Women, the DC chapter, and is the board member for the National Council of Eritrean Americans. And she's also the author of Eritrea, Deconstructing the Commission of Inquiry's report, published in Tesfa News and probably other places. Welcome to Voice of Vision, Sophia.
Thank you, Nefta. Good to be here.
Now, see, this is a lot. We went a little, but we want to unpack a few things because a lot of people are not familiar with what's happening in Eritrea. But suffice it to say, we're having you on as a interlude explanation because right now it's just been announced that we're expected the United Nations Security Council to lift the sanctions that have been imposed on Eritrea since 2008 or 2009. And so we want to unpack why that's happening, to celebrate it, why they were on there in the first place, and some of those other things. Is it possible for you to give us a little brief historical backdrop? Because I think too often when it comes to us understanding current events, people don't really go back far enough. In fact, sometimes they don't go back at all. They just look at what's happening. We want to talk about what led to the formation, if we can start with that, the creation of Eritrea as a nation, that kind of history. Can we do that really quickly?
That's going to be going back.
I know I asked you that last time when you were on, but I think
we'll come back another day for a long history of Eritrea.
It was able to be. It was colonized by Italy at one point, and then fought that independence struggle, and then was attempted to be annexed by Ethiopia, and then through and also with the assistance, from my understanding, of Britain and the imperialist powers trying to help that along, and then that induced a war of independence by Eritrea.
It was a forced armed struggle. It wasn't the choice of the Eritrean people to launch an armed struggle, but it was because of the injustices of the UN, just like we see today, that made the Eritreans have no choice but to fight for a 30-year, very bitter armed struggle, and emerged victorious in 1991 with hopes that the entire region, the Horn of Africa, Eritrea, Ethiopia, would finally find this peace for their people and be able to move on. Unfortunately, the policies, the U.S. policies, the Western policies for the Horn of Africa have been so racist, incoherent, and unjust that have caused enmity and sort of rivalries in the Horn of Africa as opposed to peace and integration with the people. And that led to the war with Ethiopia in 1998, very unfortunate border war that cost the lives of thousands on both sides. And finally decided to go to arbitration. To make a long story short, and the final decision on the Eritrea-Ethiopia border was delivered in 2002, the delimitation, and then demarcation was completed in 2007. And ever since then, the Eritreans have been waiting for the United Nations to enforce this decision of the Independent Boundary Commission that it itself set up, and they refused to do that. They were unable to do that. And so the war, the no peace, no war, lingered between Eritrea and Ethiopia for 20 years. And finally, with the change of government in Ethiopia and a more willing partner for peace for Eritrea, the Horn of Africa within a few months has been transformed by Africans themselves, by Eritreans and Ethiopians and Djiboutians and Somalians themselves, without the assistance and interference of any outside forces, and without the blessing of the United Nations that now wants to play a hand in it. So we welcome the peace that we've brought ourselves and take credit for it. Eritreans, Ethiopians have hurdled together and brought this peace. Nobody else brought it for us. And we will work through the issues that we will face in the future, which are going to be insurmountable, as people are still throwing stones and trying to divide these people. But the sanctions are a result of all these countries coming together and saying, there was an injustice in 2009. Eritrea did not interfere in the internal affairs of Somalia. Eritrea did not warrant being punished for voicing its correct policy at that time on Somalia, which now, in hindsight, everybody's looking back and saying, yes, we should have done that in Somalia and maybe saved the lives of millions of people and hardships that Somalia had to endure since 2006.